Hi guys, I'm Dan Hoff, Chief Operating Officer of HoneyStick and Goldline, and today we're not going to be making a new product introduction or talking about some vaping tips. Today we're actually going to talk about some safe vaping practices that you can practice with the onset of this coronavirus, COVID-19, that is a pandemic affecting the United States today. So our customer service lines and phones and agents here at HoneyStick and Goldline, a lot of people have had a lot of questions about vaping and what they can do to keep their vaporizers clean or practice some safe vaping practices in the midst of this pandemic. Now, as a disclaimer, I am not a medical professional, but I do know vaporizers, and I'm simply here to tell you how to keep your vaporizers clean, and we do know vape culture, so we're going to try to make some of the best efforts in the midst of this period of social distancing that you guys can continue to vape and just do it more carefully, more cognizantly, so that you can be aware of what you can do to keep yourself safe and healthy. So let's go ahead and talk about some vape culture. Now, vape culture, there's I've been to a lot of Cannabis Cup events and things like that, and it is puff pass culture where vaporizers are passed amongst groups of people, and they might not even get a t-shirt wipe off of the mouthpiece in between uses. And in this time of social distancing and with this coronavirus that seems to be a very strong and respiratory borne illness, that's just not going to fly. And a vaporizer is since you put it into your mouth, you inhale and exhale onto it, it is actually a very easy way to transmit disease, let alone the time that you're taking the vaporizer, you're putting them in your purse, you're putting them down at the register, multiple people are touching them, you don't even know where this vaporizer will go and what things it will come in contact with. So more importantly now than ever before is a time that you guys need to know how to clean these vaporizers. So first of all, let's talk about the puff passing the vape share culture. Now, normally sharing is caring when it comes to vapes, and especially out there in the cannabis community. However, in this time, sharing can be dangerous. So what you want to do is, if you guys are sharing vaporizers, okay, don't view this as a vaporizer and a party tool and a thing that people take a hit off of. Imagine that this was a thermometer, okay? And now let's say you take your temperature. Now, you take your temperature, you come in at 98.6 degrees, you tap your friend on the shoulder, hey man, check your temperature. They would, if it was actually a thermometer, they'd be like, ew, no, and they would want to either get a new thermometer or make sure that they took proper precautions so that it is sterilized. So you always want to make sure that your vaporizer is properly sterilized. Now, there's two things: that you are actually taking the vaporizer and you're putting it into your mouth. And the other part is that you're inhaling and you're exhaling your vape back onto it. So not just the vaporizer and the mouthpiece, but the whole vaporizer can be not sanitary. So we are going to run through basically that if you are vaping, what steps you can do to sanitize your vaporizer without harming your vaporizer, but more importantly, keeping yourself safe. So there's a few options that are available. So if you're looking at just protecting the mouthpiece, which since you're putting it into your mouth is probably the most essential, there are in the vape community things that are known as replaceable disposable mouthpiece covers. People use them as little covers that go over the actual mouthpiece of the vaporizer. I think we have some of these on our site that are sealed in individual little silicones. And what you would do is these are things that we use at trade shows regularly when we have vaporizers for test, is we'll have them out on the table. So before somebody uses a vaporizer, they can put it over the mouthpiece so that the mouth-to-mouth contact will not be there. Now this large one, which is more of like a hookah style tip, is much better because it covers a big area. The vaporizer, it fits on very tight, and as you can see, your mouth goes nowhere near it. Now this works. However, if you want to really get technical, before taking a vaporizer from somebody, especially somebody that you don't know, then you definitely want to clean off the surface of it as well. And for surface cleaning, you have a very nice array of disinfectant wipes. Like here you have these antibacterial wet ones that are great, that can go into your pocket. If you really want to go extreme, you have these Clorox that are antiviral, antibacterial disinfectant wipes. They work great on all these stainless steel surfaces, which most of these vaporizers are a steel. They also will clean up the glass on the mouthpiece. They have Lysol wipes. I only had a couple that I could pick up because the supermarkets are pretty dry on this kind of disinfectant stuff right now. But I'm sure that you have some around your house. You can even take antibacterial and put it onto, a paper towel and clean it up. You can even use isopropyl alcohol, which is like rubbing alcohol, that you can use to clean it up. So you want to make sure that before you take a vaporizer from somebody, that you make sure you take the precautions so that you do not come in contact with whatever was on this vaporizer and get it into your system. So you want to make sure to disinfect it. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't consider, and they clean the outside of the vaporizer and even the outside of the mouthpiece, one of the key places where you get buildup and things like that are actually on the inside of the mouthpiece. People are putting their tongues on them. They're blowing, the vape smoke back into it. That is like a harbor for bacteria and viruses to be. So where things build up, and if you wipe off the outside, that inside could still be bad. Now here's on another vape where you can see, which is more of a wide bore mouthpiece, that these can be problematic. Even if you're not sharing your vaporizers, this is a time that you definitely want to clean your own vape more because you're putting it down. Those mouthpieces are coming in contact with things. So you definitely want to keep them clean. Now, for these larger ones, several companies, we don't have them available, but a lot of companies online, you can just Google it. These mouthpieces are a standard diameter size. You can order these in all different shapes, sizes, colors, all individually wrapped and sterile. You can just have a bunch of them, so when you get done for the day, you just take it off and throw it in the garbage if you want to, and just pop on a new one. You definitely want to clean and change those more frequently. Like you can see here with our extreme tank, it's a standard size one. This mouthpiece also removes. I can even switch it with this sub-ohm tank, which you see, these are all interchangeable because the vape industry made these a standard size for the most part. So you can take these off, you can switch them out, and you can order new ones from a variety of different companies, and just make sure that you're constantly switching your mouthpieces. Another thing that you can do is, I love the idea, I showed you guys in a video that I did a while ago about cleaning your vape tank, which is more of the functionality and the internal care for your vape tank, which is to give it an isopropyl alcohol bath. You just take a little isopropyl alcohol, you put it into a cup, make sure that it's submerged, and you just drop it in there. That will do a really good job of cleaning and disinfecting it, getting all the germs and all the gunk out of it. And you just let it sit there for a couple hours, take it out, dry it off, and it is good to go. Now, when you are cleaning the surface of these vaporizers or cleaning the tanks, one of the questions that we got to our emails today, to our customer service email, is a lot of the medical professionals are saying to keep your hands clean, use soap and water, which is a great suggestion because it's a great cleaner. However, with vaporizers, you can't really use soap and water on them without ruining the actual vaporizer. So we're gonna tell you to stick more with damp surface cleaning products like disinfectant wipes. A lot of them do have a high alcohol content, or use isopropyl alcohol. Do not just use water because you can short out your vaporizer. There are electronic components in there, so it's not a good way to clean your vaporizer without actually ruining your vaporizer. So stick to the damp wipes that have alcohol or antibacterial agents in them. Stick with your wet one style wipes. You can even use your hand sanitizer very lightly onto paper towels, or you can use isopropyl pretty freely on the vaporizers. I mean, don't take your vaporizer and dump it in there. We don't want the battery, the internal circuitry of the battery coming in contact with it. But in terms of rubbing the surface down, the isopropyl should be fine because it evaporates rather quickly off of the vaporizer. So you can do that. Now, we also want to talk about making sure that that once you keep these surfaces clean, that you are doing them regularly. So even before all of this and going into flu season, I would clean off the surface of my phone using an antibacterial wipe. But now with the onset of this pandemic and the increased risk, and I'm taking my phone, I'm putting it down, I'm leaving it all over the place. I put it down at the cash register. I could put it down at the store. I'm putting it in my pocket, putting it in my car, showing people things on it. I make sure to wipe it off at least twice a day now with an antibacterial wipe or using hand sanitizer and a cloth, just to make sure that I'm not carrying around residual germs on it. And for surface of the vaporizers, you guys should definitely, whatever you were doing, definitely increase the frequency. Absolutely, if you have shared your vaporizer with a friend. Absolutely, if you are putting it down places like I am and it's your daily driver, you want to make sure at the end of the day you're cleaning the surface, you're sanitizing, you're making sure you're taking care of that mouthpiece, and that those are taken care of to make sure that you're safe, because anything that you actually put into your mouth and you're inhaling and exhaling on is definitely something that you want to take seriously in this time. So next we're going to move into something that is more of vape, more into vape culture, but now goes into common etiquette with this pandemic going around. So there's a lot of times that you vapors, a lot of people are guilty, a lot of people in my office are guilty. You have an awesome vape, whatever it is, whether it's e-juice, whether it's your favorite brew of Skittles and you have it in a monster tank. It might be a HoneyStick, it might not. But you take that monster rip and you blow that big cloud out. And walking down on Figueroa in Los Angeles, I can remember all the different cartridges that I could just smell by walking down the street. It was like a busy Friday and everybody was outside hanging out. It was after 5, right before a Lakers game. It was a really cool vibe, and I must have smelled all these different strains of cartridges. However, right now when everybody is paranoid about getting germs on them, don't go blowing that free vape cloud out in the crowded areas, because people do not want to inhale what you are exhaling. Even though, people like myself and my employees might enjoy the smell of secondhand Skittles, people are not going to appreciate inhaling whatever you're exhaling because they're scared that they might be getting this terrible virus, this disease. So try to be mindful of that. People are looking at you funny if you're clearing your throat. People are very on edge right now with safety, and rightfully so. So please be cognizant that what you're inhaling, what you're exhaling, taking these deep hits and taking these coughs, they could definitely be construed as not a vapor cough of a great rip. They could be construed as, I have the flu or I have this corona thing as a cough. So it will definitely put people on edge in a crowd. And as vapors and as a cannabis community as a whole, we definitely want to avoid conflict. So please also be cognizant of that. Now, another question that we have gotten to our sites since this virus popped up is about cartridges. And we don't really have an answer for what cartridges to get, what is safe and what is not safe. All we can do is apply a little bit of common sense to it and tell people is look at the source as to whether they're trustworthy. I mean, we work in our line of business, white labeling, for medical grade extractors that have very clean and strict facilities and guidelines that make cartridges, pre-filled style 510 cartridges for cannabis for medical use in several states, and they have very strict guidelines, and they have clean rooms and all of those things to make sure that they are not getting foreign or dirty materials into their cartridges when they are filling them. They are basically made in pharmaceutical style standard manufacturing compliance. So we believe that purchasing cartridges and things like that from those sources are much more safer than purchasing them from sources that you don't know, or just any other company that might have popped up in a dispensary in whatever your state is, or just any random CBD person online. Is maybe do a little bit more due diligence into what type of manufacturing practices these cartridge producers are producing under before you make that decision, because you want to make sure that your cartridges that you're putting into your mouth and vape that you're putting into your lungs are made in the most sanitary way that you can. So we don't really have an answer for you because we don't know, but from what we've seen and the different clientele we've interacted with, we know that a lot of these big medical producers, these big ISO and GMP producers, go the extra mile to make sure that they're making good, clean products for people to vape under good practices versus other sources. So make sure that you do your research there, maybe take an extra step as you normally would before you vape. And if this was a question that you had, hopefully that helps you. What also comes in new vapes. So you pick up a new vape from a box. I mean, these things are being shipped around the country and all of these things. They're packaged differently. People touch them. Is before you get it now, make sure that when you take it out of the box, what I would do is just, it doesn't take you much work at all. Take it, use one of these sanitary wipes or one of these little disinfectant wipes and just wipe the surface off before you bring it into yourself and you call it yours. And it is now in your safe space and you are putting it, into your mouth. You're inhaling, exhaling off of it just to be safe and sorry. I know at the post office, our UPS reps and FedEx reps and people who ship out for us are saying that they're taking extra precautions to handle boxes and things like that properly. But whenever you're opening and touching things that came out of the mail that a lot of people touched, do take that extra step. And before you bring it in and use it as one of your own, give it a good wipe down. And rest assured that at least that part of your daily function and your routine is at least going to be disinfected. So, guys, I hope that answers a lot of the questions that we have gotten to our online and our phone portals. I hope this video can be helpful for you guys, definitely in a time where as a country and as people, as a community industry, we need to pull together, hunker down, and just try to be as sanitary as we can and be as courteous to each other as we can also. So if you guys have any questions for us, our phone lines are open. Our emails are open. support@vapehoneystick.com. We'll try to answer the questions the best as you can, and we'll be here to try to serve you as best as we can with your vape needs. I'm Dan Hoff. Make sure to stay safe, stay healthy, and most of all, when you're sanitary vaping, make sure to do it responsibly. Thanks, guys.